I should have known something was off the moment she came back from her appointment. She looked different. Not physically, emotionally. Her smile was too sweet, too forced. Her eyes didn't meet mine when I asked how it went. "It was fine," she said, brushing me off with a kiss on the cheek. Just a checkup. Just a checkup. But I felt it. A strange tightness in my gut. I didn't say anything, though. I didn't want to seem paranoid. After all, it was just her annual physical. With a new doctor. A male doctor. Dr. Marcus Hale. The name was on her paperwork when she left it on the kitchen table. I looked at it longer than I should have. My mind started playing tricks. I imagined some smug, handsome guy in a white coat flashing that practiced, disarming smile, the kind that makes women forget themselves. I shook it off, told myself I was being ridiculous. But that tightness didn't go away. Megan and I had been together for 5 years, married for 2. Things had been fine. Not perfect, but we were comfortable. We had routines. Saturday morning pancakes, Netflix marathons, occasional road trips to nowhere. But lately she'd been distant, always on her phone, smiling at texts she wouldn't show me, claiming it was just work stuff, saying she was tired, saying she needed space. Still, I tried to trust her. I wanted to believe in us. Until that night. It started with a call. I was on the couch watching a game. Her phone lit up next to me. She was in the shower. I wasn't trying to snoop, but the name on the screen made my heart stop. Dr. Marcus Hale. No office. No clinic. Just his name. Personal. Intimate. He texted too. "Thinking about you. Can't wait until Friday." My hands trembled. I stared at the words, my brain refusing to accept what my eyes were showing me. "Thinking about you. Can't wait until Friday." Friday. She told me she had a late meeting that day. The water shut off. I locked the screen and placed the phone back exactly how it was. My heart was racing, but I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just sat there, pretending nothing happened, while everything inside me started to rot. She came out in a towel, humming. Saw me. Smiled. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "Just tired." Tired. That was the word she always used when she didn't want to touch me anymore. I lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, while she slept peacefully beside me. Or maybe she was pretending to sleep. I couldn't tell anymore. I didn't know what was real and what was performance. My wife was texting her doctor, and he was thinking about her. And there was a Friday. I had to know more. I had to see it with my own eyes. I became an actor in my own life. Every smile I gave her was rehearsed. Every touch calculated. Every question dipped in honey to hide the growing acid beneath my skin. I told myself I needed more evidence. Something undeniable. Something that would rip away any lingering doubt. Because what I saw on that screen, it could have been innocent. A joke. A misstep. But deep down, I already knew the truth. I could feel it in my bones. The next few days were torture. Megan acted normal. Too normal. She kissed me goodbye in the mornings with just the right amount of affection, sent the usual heart emoji around lunch, and returned home with stories about meetings that ran long or coworkers that annoyed her. But her eyes didn't shine the way they used to, and her body, it wasn't cold exactly, but there was a distance, a gap I couldn't cross no matter how hard I tried. I started checking her phone when she was in the shower or stepped out to get groceries. I know it's wrong. But when you suspect the person you trust most is lying to your face, morality becomes a luxury. The texts with Dr. Hale weren't constant, but they were there. Short, careful. Nothing that screamed affair if you didn't already suspect it. But it was the tone, the familiarity, the way he called her Meg. No one called her that, not even me. One afternoon, I followed her. She said she had a client dinner downtown. Wore a dress that was too sleek for business and sprayed a perfume I hadn't smelled in months. When she left, I gave it 10 minutes, grabbed my keys, and drove after her. I stayed 2 cars behind, heart pounding so loud I could hear it over the radio. She didn't go to any restaurant. She didn't go anywhere public. She went to a townhouse. I parked half a block away and watched her walk up the steps. She didn't knock. She didn't hesitate. She had a key. That's when my heart really broke. Not like a dramatic, cinematic shatter. No, it was slower, like glass under pressure, crack by crack. A weight I couldn't stop pressing down. I didn't confront her that night. Couldn't. I needed to be sure. I needed to know how long it had been going on. What he had that I didn't. Why a man with a stethoscope and a six-figure salary could just stroll into my marriage and take what I had built with blood, time, and love. I started researching Dr. Hale. His clinic, his reviews, even his social media. He was exactly what I feared. Early 40s, charming, clean-cut with just the right amount of salt and pepper at the temples. Divorced. No kids. Pictures of charity events and medical conferences filled his feed. The kind of man who made women feel safe, special, chosen. And Megan, my Megan, had fallen for it. But the worst was still coming. Because I wasn't the only one watching. I started documenting everything. It wasn't enough to know, I needed proof. Proof for myself in case I ever doubted the reality of what was happening. Proof for others in case this spiraled into a legal mess. But most of all, I needed to reclaim a sense of control. Because every day, Megan walked through our front door with her polished lies and practiced indifference. And I felt like I was drowning in a pool of my own denial. I bought a cheap voice recorder. Slipped it into her purse one evening under the pretense of helping her find her keys. I felt sick doing it. I was invading her privacy, violating trust. But then again, what trust? She had already torched that bridge. I also installed a small GPS tracker under her car. These weren't just paranoid measures anymore. They were survival tactics. I needed to know the full picture before I could confront her, before I could decide whether to burn it all down or walk away with dignity. The recordings started harmless. Office chatter. A phone call with her mother. Then one afternoon, I hit play and felt my entire chest go hollow. She was laughing. That soft, flirtatious laugh I hadn't heard in months. Then his voice, smooth, confident, familiar from online interviews I had watched. "I missed you," he said. "You saw me 2 days ago." Still, it's not enough. She didn't resist. She didn't correct him. She just whispered something back that I couldn't fully catch. But the tone said everything. Intimacy, consent, desire. I had to pause the recording. Couldn't take it. I clenched the device in my hand until my knuckles turned white. The rage didn't feel fiery, it was cold. Icy. A kind of numb fury that made everything else quiet. I wasn't heartbroken anymore. I was preparing for war. But still, I waited. Friday came. The same pattern. She dressed nice, told me it was a client's birthday dinner, and left with a kiss on the forehead. Not the lips. Never the lips anymore. I waited 10 minutes, then got in my car and followed. I knew where she was going, but I needed to see it again. I needed to watch her walk into that townhouse, into his world, and leave ours behind. But when I arrived, something had changed. There was another car parked a few houses down. A black SUV. The driver was sitting inside, engine running. At first, I thought it was nothing, a neighbor maybe, but then I saw the camera. A long lens peeking out just low enough from the passenger window. He wasn't watching the street. He was watching them. Someone else was spying on my wife and her doctor. It jolted me. For a second, I even thought I was losing my mind. Was this some kind of setup? Was I being followed? But the guy didn't notice me. He was focused, professional. That's when I realized someone else wanted the same truth I did. And suddenly, a new question formed in my mind. Who else was Dr. Hale lying to? I couldn't stop staring at that SUV. Everything else faded. The townhouse, the streetlights, even the bitter taste in my throat. All I could see was the camera and the man behind it. He wasn't just some curious neighbor. He was too still, too focused, professional. And professionals don't follow people without reason. So what was his reason? I watched from the shadows, barely breathing. Part of me wanted to confront him, demand answers. But I held back. He didn't know me. For all he knew, I was just another resident, maybe even someone else Megan had lied to. And maybe I could use this. I waited until he drove off, quietly, no lights, and then I followed him. Not close. just enough to see where he went. He led me across town, to a modest apartment building near the edge of the city. I parked a block away, heart racing, and watched as he entered. He looked calm, methodical. He carried a messenger bag and moved like someone who had done this before. Private investigator. It had to be. But who had hired him? I waited until the next day. Megan was out shopping, which now meant whatever lie fit the occasion, and I returned to that apartment building. I didn't know what I was expecting. Maybe to bump into the guy in the hallway. Maybe to find some clue, some thread to pull. I checked the tenant directory and scanned the names. Only one stood out, Hale. Hale. My stomach dropped. I went back to my car and sat in silence, trying to breathe, trying to think. There was only one possibility that made sense, and it made my skin crawl. Dr. Marcus Hale was married, and someone, maybe his wife, was watching him. Watching them. I couldn't decide what made me sicker. That Megan had destroyed our marriage for a man who was already taken, or that she might not even know it. Was she just another pawn in his game? Another woman to charm, to seduce, to use? Or was she complicit? Did she know? Did she simply not care? The next time I checked her phone, I found the answer. There was a message from Marcus. Not recent, a few weeks old, probably overlooked. She hadn't deleted it. Anna's getting suspicious. We need to be careful. Anna. Hale. That was it. The confirmation. Not only was he married, but Megan knew. She wasn't a victim. She was a co-conspirator. They both knew they were destroying something sacred. Two liars bound together by lust and the thrill of betrayal. I felt something break inside me. Not my heart. That was long gone. No, this was something deeper. My sense of reality. My belief in people. In commitment. In honesty. They were both living double lives. And I was done playing the fool. That night I didn't sleep. I lay awake, eyes wide open, staring into the ceiling's blank void, while Megan curled beside me like nothing was wrong. Her breathing was steady, calm. She even mumbled something sweet in her sleep, something she hadn't done in months. But the sound made my stomach churn. I wasn't lying next to my wife anymore. I was lying next to a stranger, a traitor, a woman who whispered lies into my ear while offering her truth to another man. My mind wouldn't stop spiraling. I thought of every moment we'd shared. Our anniversary trips, the night we danced barefoot in the kitchen, the day she cried in my arms when her father died. Were those memories real to her? Or had she been performing all along? Practicing affection while waiting for someone more exciting, more successful? Someone with a medical degree and a secret townhouse? By morning, I had a plan. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg or cry or punch a wall. I'd done enough bleeding internally. Now I wanted clarity. I wanted the whole damn picture. So I took a risk. I reached out to the only person who could give it to me, Anna Hale. It took some digging, a few searches, a bit of cross-referencing from the apartment directory, but I found her email. It was listed under a small wellness blog she had once written, long and active. I drafted and redrafted the message a dozen times. Finally, I sent something simple, respectful, but direct. Mrs. Hale, I believe we're both being lied to. I'm Megan Carter's husband. I think we should talk. No reply that day, or the next. Megan, meanwhile, went about her days like a woman with nothing to hide. She even suggested a weekend getaway, just the two of us. The irony was enough to make me want to laugh and scream at the same time. She was trying to bury her guilt under forced romance. It was almost pathetic. Then, on the third morning, I got a reply. Just one line. Meet me. Tomorrow. 10 a.m. Café Laurent. I'll bring what you need to see. I didn't know what to expect. A tearful confession? Anger? Solidarity? But what I got was something colder. Sharper. When I walked into the cafe, Anna Hale was already there. A file folder on the table beside her cappuccino, dressed in crisp gray and a stare that could cut glass. You must be the husband, she said. I nodded. Sat down. You knew. I always knew, she replied. But this time I wanted proof. She slid the folder toward me. Inside were photos. Dozens. Megan and Marcus, entering the townhouse, kissing at the door, holding hands on the balcony. A weekend trip to a lakeside cabin I didn't even know existed. Your wife's been screwing mine for over 6 months, she said flatly. I stared at the images, my throat burning. Why now? Why meet with me? Anna took a long sip of coffee before answering. Because I'm done being quiet, she said. And I think you are too. I don't know what hit me harder. The photos themselves, or the calm with which Anna handed them to me. There was no trembling in her fingers, no visible pain, just a steely focus like a surgeon cutting into a tumor without flinching. But as I looked through the images, my wife wrapped in another man's arms, laughing in hotel lobbies, pressed up against a car window with her hands in his hair. My body went cold. Not angry, not shocked, just hollow, as if something inside me had been scooped out and replaced with silence. I thought maybe it was just sex at first, Anna said, her voice detached, clinical. I could have almost lived with that. We've been married 11 years. People get restless, stupid. But then I found their emails. That's when I knew it wasn't just a fling. I looked up at her. Emails? She nodded, reached into her bag, and handed me a flash drive. I cloned his laptop while he was in the shower. Everything's on there. Messages, calendar invites, even their little anniversary notes. Apparently, they started seeing each other after her second checkup. Second, that hit like a punch. Megan had told me she only saw him once for a routine physical. That was over 8 months ago. So the lies had started early, long before the texts, the townhouse, the late meetings. I clenched the flash drive in my fist. Anna leaned forward. I want to destroy him. Legally. Financially. Publicly. I've been talking to a lawyer. But I need to know, are you in? The question didn't surprise me. But the way she said it, not as a plea, but as an offer, almost like a business transaction, that unsettled me. We were both victims, yes? But she was already thinking 5 steps ahead, playing chess while I was still trying to understand the rules of the game we were now in. I don't know yet, I admitted. I'm still processing. That's fair. But let me be clear, he's not going to stop. And if your wife is anything like mine, she won't either. They're addicted to this. The danger, the deception, the thrill of sneaking around while we clean up their messes. I hated how much sense that made. Megan had always craved attention. She wasn't cruel, at least not before, but she needed to feel desired. Important. And I, with my long work hours and predictable habits, had become background noise in her search for excitement. Anna stood up. Take your time. But don't wait too long. He's smart. And when he senses the walls closing in, he'll cut her loose to save himself. You want your justice? Get ahead of it. As she walked away, I stared at the photos one last time. Megan wasn't crying in any of them. She was glowing. That was the moment I knew she was never coming back. Not really. I could keep pretending. Keep sleeping beside a ghost. But something fundamental between us had shattered, and no amount of apologies or explanations could put it back together. I had the truth now. And soon she would too. I didn't confront her right away. For a few days, I carried the flash drive like a weapon in my pocket, in my palm, sometimes on the nightstand when I couldn't sleep. It wasn't just digital proof of betrayal. It was a mirror reflecting back everything I had ignored, everything I had let slide. I wanted to scream, to drag her into the truth and make her look at what she'd done. But something held me back. I wanted her to feel it. I wanted her to see it before I ever said a word. So I waited. I smiled. I let her keep pretending. And then, one evening, I made dinner. Her favorite lemon butter salmon, asparagus, and the sourdough she always claimed reminded her of our first date. I poured wine, lit candles. She looked surprised, even touched. This is, wow. What's the occasion? She asked, slipping into her seat with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. No occasion, I said. I just missed you. A lie, but an effective one. We ate. She made small talk. I listened, nodded, asked about her day. When she reached for the wine bottle, I stopped her. There's something I want to show you, I said. Her hand froze. I stood, walked to the living room, and came back with my laptop. I opened the folder, Anna's folder, and turned the screen toward her. No warning. No build-up. Just reality, raw and unfiltered, staring her in the face. She didn't move at first. Just blinked. Then her smile vanished. What is this? Take your time, I said, voice even. There's more. Keep going. She clicked. Photos. Screenshots. Messages. Hotel confirmations. A copy of the lease agreement for the townhouse co-signed by a fake name she had obviously helped him create. There was even a note he wrote her, something handwritten, scanned, where he called her his light in the dark. The room went silent except for the soft hum of the laptop. Eventually she spoke. Barely. Where did you get this? I didn't answer. She looked up at me. Her face was pale, lips trembling. Who gave you this? Still, I said nothing. She stood suddenly, almost knocking her chair over. You went through my stuff? You followed me. And there it was, the instinct to deflect, to shift guilt, to make me the villain in a story she wrote with lies and perfume. No, I said quietly. Your lover's wife did. Anna Hale. She's known longer than I have. Megan crumpled. It wasn't dramatic, not at first. She just sat back down, her body folding in on itself like she'd been punched in the gut. Her breathing went shallow. Her eyes welled up. But there were no tears yet. Only silence. Shame, maybe? Or maybe the fear of consequences she never thought would come. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she whispered. A cliché. The oldest one. You signed a lease together, I said. You wrote each other love letters. You went on vacations. Don't insult me with, I didn't mean to. You meant every moment. I was lonely, she said, finally crying now. I felt invisible. I never stopped loving you, I replied. But you didn't want love. You wanted escape. She didn't deny it. She just cried harder. And for the first time, I didn't reach for her. I let her fall apart alone. Megan cried for hours that night. She paced the living room, her makeup smeared, her words tumbling out in half-coherent sobs. She begged me to listen, really listen, like she was the one whose heart had been broken. She confessed in fragments that it started out of boredom, that Marcus made her feel alive again, that she knew it was wrong but convinced herself I'd never find out. She called it a mistake. A phase. A bad decision that somehow snowballed into this tangled mess of secrets and rented keys and candlelit motel rooms. I watched her unravel from across the room. And I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No righteous anger. Just a dull ache where something used to be. She dropped to her knees at one point. Actually knelt in front of me, sobbing into her hands like a widow at a graveside. I remember the exact words she said, I'll never forget them. I ruined everything. But I love you. I still love you. That was when I finally stood up. Not to comfort her. Not to forgive. But to walk away into our bedroom where I packed a single bag. Just the essentials. A few shirts. Jeans. My laptop. I didn't need much. Not anymore. She followed me, desperate, confused. Where are you going? Please, we can fix this. We can try therapy, marriage counseling, I'll do anything. I turned to her. Slowly. Calmly. You didn't love me, I said. You loved the version of me that gave you stability. That paid the bills. That made you feel safe. But you didn't want safety. You wanted risk. You wanted fireworks. So you burned the house down just to feel warm. Her lips parted like she was going to argue, but no words came out. People don't fall into affairs by accident, Megan. They choose them. Over and over again. I zipped my bag and left the room. She stood in the doorway like a statue, arms wrapped around herself, shaking. I don't know if it was guilt or fear or simply the shock of realizing she was finally being held accountable. But I didn't stay to find out. I walked out of the house that night and didn't look back. Not once. In the hallway of our building, I leaned against the wall for a moment, just breathing. The silence outside our apartment felt heavier than it had inside. But it was honest. And for the first time in months, I wasn't pretending. There's a strange kind of power in choosing to walk away. Not slamming the door. Not screaming. Just letting go. Because what she broke wasn't just trust. It was the version of me that needed her to be whole. The first night away from Megan was quiet in the way a battlefield is quiet after the smoke clears. I stayed at a modest extended stay motel just outside the city. Nothing fancy, just 4 walls, a bed, and a TV I didn't turn on. I sat in silence most of the evening, watching the shadows crawl along the wallpaper as the hours passed. My phone lit up every few minutes, her name over and over again. Calls. Voicemails. Texts that grew increasingly frantic. Please call me. Please don't do this. I need you. We can fix it. I made a mistake. I love you. I didn't answer a single one. Because deep down I knew this wasn't about love. This was about loss. About her suddenly facing a life where I wasn't there to clean up the emotional wreckage. I wasn't the man on standby anymore. I had stepped off the path she'd paved for me with apologies and manipulation. The next morning I opened the flash drive again. Not because I needed more pain, but because I needed closure. I went through the emails carefully, line by line. Some of them were short and transactional, coordinating meetups, excuses, cover stories. but others were something else. Romantic, intimate, deceptively sincere. In one email, she wrote, "With you, I feel like I'm finally seen. Like I can be anyone, and it's still enough." She had never said that to me. Not in 5 years of shared mornings and quiet dinners and holidays with my parents. And yet here, in the shadows of someone else's marriage, she had found the courage to express her truth. That hurt more than any photo ever could. Because it wasn't just the sex. It was the emotional betrayal, the parts of her I was never allowed to know but that she gave freely to a man she met in a white coat during a routine checkup. Later that day, Anna called me. "I filed," she said. No small talk. No pity in her voice. "I'm done." I nodded even though she couldn't see it. "I will too." There was a pause. Then she said something that surprised me. "You know what's funny? For the first time in years, I feel like myself again. Like I don't have to perform anymore." I understood exactly what she meant. When you live with a liar, you start lying to yourself. About how happy you are. About what you're willing to tolerate. About how much of yourself you're willing to lose to keep the illusion alive. But once it shatters, you're left with something oddly pure. Not happiness. Not yet. But clarity. That night, I deleted every message Megan had ever sent me. And for the first time, I slept without her name echoing in my dreams. The divorce was quiet. No courtroom drama. No shouting matches. Just paperwork, signatures, and polite exchanges that masked years of suppressed fury and disappointment. Megan didn't fight it. Maybe she knew better. Maybe she was just tired. Or maybe, deep down, she realized I wasn't the one she had betrayed most. She betrayed herself, and there was no fixing that. We sold the house. Split the accounts. I let her keep the furniture. She always liked nesting, surrounding herself with pretty things to distract from the emptiness underneath. I took only what I needed: clothes, books, a few personal keepsakes that still felt untainted. And then I left. Physically, emotionally, entirely. But leaving doesn't mean forgetting. Some nights, her face still visits me, not as a wound, but as a question. Who was she really? Was the woman I married ever real, or just a role she played until something better came along? I'll never know. And maybe that's part of the healing, accepting the questions that never get answered. I started rebuilding. Not in a dramatic movie montage kind of way. Just, slowly. I moved into a smaller place near the lake. Started cooking for myself again. Reading more. Jogging in the mornings with no destination, just motion. I even picked up a side project, woodworking of all things. There's something therapeutic about shaping raw material into something solid. Honest. It does what you tell it to. It doesn't lie. Anna and I stayed in touch for a while. We had coffee a few times. Talked like war veterans, sharing stories, scars, dry laughter. There was no spark between us, no romantic tension. Just mutual understanding. The kind that only comes from surviving a betrayal you didn't deserve. Eventually, she moved away. A job opportunity in Colorado. She left me a short note. "We survived. That's enough. Be good to yourself." And I have been. I won't say I'm healed. That's too clean a word for something so jagged. But I'm better. Lighter. And somehow more whole now that I'm not carrying someone else's lies in my chest. Megan reached out once, months later. A simple message. "I think about you." "I'm sorry." I didn't reply. Because forgiveness, I realized, isn't always about letting someone back in. Sometimes it's about releasing yourself from the need to hear anything more. I deserved better. And now I finally believe that. This story didn't end with revenge. Or redemption. It ended with truth. And sometimes that's the most powerful closure of all.